Low light photography doesn't have to be difficult, especially when you understand how exposure works. There's 3 steps: aperture, shutter speed and ISO, and I'm going to walk you through each of them here. So the first step is the aperture. In low light, we want that to be as wide open as possible to allow as much light into the lens as possible. So looking at my lens, I know that this is a 3.5 to 5.6. And what that means is that at 18 millimeters, I can set my aperture to f3.5. But as I zoom in to 55 millimeters, the widest possible aperture is 5.6. That is 1 1/3 stop less light. So that's worth thinking about. You don't necessarily want to zoom in low light if you have a lens that doesn't consistently keep the whole aperture throughout. So I'm going to keep mine to 18 millimeters, and I've set it here to f3.5. I also know that taking a photo handheld at night, I need to set a shutter speed that is going to allow me to take a sharp photo and not capture motion blur or camera shake from my hand. And at 18 millimeters, I think the best I could probably do is 1/30th of a second. This camera lens does actually have image stabilizer, but we won't be talking about this in this scenario. But I will say that an image stabilizer can add 2, 3 maybe stops of stabilization. So it is worth playing with, but for the majority of people who don't have stabilization, we won't go into too much detail there. So I'm going to set up my scene, and I've got it set to 1/30th of a second and f3.5. Let's have a look and see how that comes out. I was looking through the viewfinder and I could see that it was almost 2 stops underexposed. So what do? Well, the final step is to increase the ISO. I'm going to change it by 2 stops. So now we're at ISO 400. I'm playing back this image on the camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. This is a good way to check and see if your image is sharp, especially when you're shooting handheld in low light. I can see this is not that sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm initially going to take 1 extra photo, keep my arms nice and close together, and see if that helps. And it does a pretty good job, but it's not all that reliable, because sometimes, you just a bit of wind, or you're standing on sand or rocks like we're standing on, you might miss a shot. So you might want to increase that shutter speed to 1/40th, 1/50th of a second. Just know why you change each section. Aperture is probably going to stay open, all the way open. If you have motion blur, you can't fix that later. So you need to set a faster shutter speed. And then the ISO, that compensates for anything that's missing. If you're still missing exposure, turn up the ISO. We don't want to push the ISO too high, because you do start to get grain, which is why it's the last resort. We keep as much image quality as possible, and then if we still need more light, we push the ISO. It's better to have a slightly underexposed photo in the end and lower noise, and then you can push that in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever you like to increase the exposure. I often find that that does a better result than actually increasing the ISO. But one more time, I'm going to increase the ISO here to 800. The exposure compensation meter is right in the middle at 1/50th of a second. And there we have a good low light photo. So that's how you capture photos in low light while being handheld. Low light photography doesn't have to be difficult, and even a basic camera like this can do a good job. The sun is well and truly set now, so we're dealing with some seriously low light. So the shutter speed is going to have to change again, or the aperture, or the ISO. But in this case, we're going to change the shutter speed. I'm going to leave the aperture at, let's say, 5.6, and the ISO at 200. Now we're going to be at about 2 stops underexposed at that nice sweet spot of ½ a second. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the shutter speed. So now, to get the exposure compensation meter in the middle, I've gone to 1.6 seconds, and that's a better exposure. There's no underexposed or overexposed parts of the photo. So I'm having to change the shutter speed as the light changes too. But this is an exposure, so it doesn't have to be the shutter speed. It could be the aperture or the ISO, but they come with their own problems. Thanks for watching.